It's so good to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, certainly. Most happy to be here.
So let's begin our journey into your work by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic changed all of us in so many ways, business and otherwise. How did you get through that era, and how did it change the way that you go about business and life today?
Sure. About 5 years ago, as we all know, we were all sort of shut in. And I'd been doing magic for 25 years, right? And nobody really hires magicians or anything at that time. So I thought, well, if I were to completely change what it is that I do, what would that kind of look like? Well, actually, rewind a couple of years because this is relevant. The FBI had asked me to do some magic for one of their events. And I said, okay, well, what would you like me to do? Is there anything in particular? I always just ask, like, if there's anything specific. And they said, oh, yeah, do it, but it's got to be good for FBI people. And I'm like, what's magic for FBI people?
Yeah.
So I had no idea. I said no. Yeah, and so during the pandemic, I thought about some of the prior, conversations I had, and I thought, well, what's something that I know? I know magic, and I know security. So I thought, well, since I don't know how long this is going to be, and no one's hiring right now anyway, I combined the two because I thought if I could do this, there's very few other people in the world who know both security and magic. So I created this routine where I would said, "Hey, here's how a FBI agent would do an interrogation, and here is how a mentalist, and it's really a type of magician, would do an interrogation." And it was intended to be for fun. And I was asked again, years later, a year later after COVID, if I would do some magic, and I brought this out, and they loved it. And so after that, just word of mouth, people started talking about it. And then, long story short, it turned into a thing. So now I do security themed mentalism or magic shows, which is a ton of fun.
So if you were to explain what you do on a daily basis to a bunch of kids, 12-year-olds at a school, it's career day, how would you explain what you do for a living?
Oh, well, what I do is I make uh, learning about security fun.
Okay. So what did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream job?
Oh, I think like everybody else when they're 12 years old, you want to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
I loved that. I loved watching Star Trek, and I don't know about you, Joe, but I was watching recently Strange New Worlds, which is another Star Trek sort of spin-off thing. It's just so much fun. But yeah, I in reality, once we're older, we know that doesn't actually exist. There is no Starship Enterprise. You can't travel from planet to planet, and being an astronaut requires basically being spun around in these things until you vomit.
Yeah.
So reality is not the same. So although I don't want to do that.
Yeah. No, 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 thank you. So take me back to your beginnings. Where were you born and raised, and how did you get into security and being a mentalist and magic? How did all this happen?
Sure. So well, I grew up in Louisiana. So of all places, I know that you can totally tell from my accent.
Yeah.
Uh, Joking, of course. Essentially, so I'm Chinese, and that's a little relevant because there are very few Chinese people in Louisiana. So it's very hard to make friends. So when you're younger, and I'm not saying I was bullied or anything like that. It's just harder to make friends when you look different than everybody else. And when I was in 10th grade, I saw this magic shop. I didn't really know what that was. It was in New Orleans, I remember. Um, and I asked my mother. I really begged her to buy me a magic trick, and so she did. And I took that home and I practiced it and I brought it to school. And then people liked it. So all of a sudden I became very popular in school. And I thought it was me, but in retrospect, I understand that it was because people just liked watching the magic. Anyway, I made some friends, and that's what changed that changed me a lot because I thought, oh wow, I can do this and make some friends. And so over time, I just started doing more and more, and then it turned into a thing. I went to school at MIT, so I studied computer science, and then I got an IT job doing IT stuff, and um, which very quickly transitioned into anti-fraud
Yeah.
and then into cybersecurity. So I've been doing that for about 20 years. And then I continue to do the magic, um, of course, on side by side. And so then they sort of merged into one after COVID. So
That's
that's kind of the way it worked.
that's a fascinating combination. So, were you doing work with the FBI? How did the FBI find out about you and reach out?
So that one's also a pretty funny story. So I've always enjoyed, I guess, besides being the astronaut type of thing, I've always enjoyed sort of the mysteries and things like that. And I never actually wanted to be an FBI agent or anything like that. That's not my. I didn't want to work for government or do law enforcement, but I do find it super fascinating. I enjoy that. I enjoy that. And so there was the FBI has this thing called the FBI Citizens Academy. Have you heard of that, Joe?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for those of your listeners who haven't, essentially the FBI, as well as the DEA and all these other organizations, as part of their community outreach, they have these classes that, as a U.S. citizen, you can take that teach you about what they do. So it's totally for people who are not actually working for them. So I was super interested in going, and you have to be nominated by an FBI agent in this particular case, or they don't even look at your application. And so I don't know anybody. I didn't at the time. I knew nobody, and then I thought, okay, well, I would really love to do this. I just like to learn. I think it'd be fun. So I spent about 9 months trying to figure out who the decision makers were, who would decide who the people that they accept are, because they don't really accept very many people. And so I spent a ton of time and I figured out that they were having a class on behavioral analysis of behavioral profiling at one of their offices. And I had reached out to one of the people through my research and said, "Hey, could I register for that?" And to my surprise, they registered me. Uh, so I showed up at the event. One of the ladies asked me, "Hey, we know everybody in here, but we don't know you. Who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm super interested in kind of what you do, so I signed up." They're like, "But this is private," and I said, "Well, I'm registered. You can check,"
Yeah,
which wasn't a lie.
right.
And she said, "Yeah, yeah, we get that. We get that." But how did you do that? And I explained to her that I did a bunch of research and I did it. And then because I knew so much when I registered, I guess I'm assuming I don't know
Yeah,
that essentially I social engineered them into into letting me into the room. And she said, "Well, seriously, you're here just to learn." And I said, "Yes, seriously, that's what I am doing." And I told her my credentials and stuff like that, so she knew that I do enjoy that sort of thing. And so she said, "That's really impressive. If you're interested, I'll sponsor you." So that was how I was able to attend the classes the following year, and then after that, I've continued the relationships and been able to meet people and all that. So they've gotten to know me pretty well. I've never worked for them or anything like that, but they know that I do magic, and they know that I just have a high level of interest in kind of security work. So
that's
yeah.
cool. So, who's been your favorite magicians? Who have you watched and emulated and looked up to?
So today, I would say Shin Lim, and prior to him, I would say Max Maven, and those two are very, very different people. I just say very high level. So Max Maven, may he rest in peace. He is a very good mentalist, and for those of you on the call, or rather in the audience who don't know what a mentalist is, a mentalist is like a magician. But rather than using dexterity of the hands, it's more like psychological games. So trying to get you to think of whatever it is that they're thinking of or something like that. Um, so it's just a different flavor of magic. So anyway, Max Maven is this really awesome inventor and performer. of mentalism. I don't follow his style. He has a very unique style in the way that he presents, but his techniques, the material that he has, I really love it. It's very inspiring. So I create a lot of my own, and some of it's really based on kind of his work. So Max Maven does great mentalism work, and then Shin Lim, who many of you have probably seen from America's Got Talent, is just an amazing magician. I mean, I couldn't even. There's no way I could ever be at that level. His dexterity of the hands is so phenomenal. And just as a very brief story, one of his I guess more famous routines is called the Dream Act. And he did that on America's Got Talent, where he had two people up and then he got the cards to appear, disappear, things like that. But the bottom line is normally when I see magic routines, I know within 30 seconds exactly how they're done. So
Wow.
magic and mentalism, I know right away because I've been doing it for so long. And I would argue that most people who have been doing this for decades also could do that. But with his act, I had no clue. I had no clue.
Yeah.
And so I did what a good magician does is they want to learn. So I bought the DVD that explained how he does it from him. It's a 6 hour DVD. And first off, most magic stuff is not 6 hours long. It's like 1 or 2 hours, and really it could have been 5 minutes. They're just going a lot of detail. Um, and the first 30 minutes is just him showing you all of the moves that are incorporated into that act. So he just sort of slows down and says, "This is how I did it. This is how I did it." And then the next 5.5 hours or however long it is teaches you how to actually do the moves. After the first 30 minutes, I looked at him like, oh my gosh, I would never be able to do this. I'm done.
Yeah.
So I never even actually even watched the rest of it because usually you chain together. Most people can only do like one technique at a time to
Yeah.
create something pretty cool. I can chain together two, three, four. I can chain together a few things. It's not really that bad. But his is like 15 things. And I'm like, I can't even remember that many things in a row. So
Yeah.
it's it's really incredible what he does, both Max Maven for the mentalism stuff and then Shin Lim for the magic stuff. It's just incredible.
So, I always hear people when they run into magicians and illusionists and, mentalists, and they're like, how did you do that? And it's never fair because you're never going to get an answer. My question to you that's along those lines is, how do you train your mind to do something that most people can't do? And on top of that, you're doing something that I would imagine is quite difficult to do. Very precise, very specific, that will completely blow people away. How do you go in mentally, consistently, and evolve in doing each and every act that you do?
Sure. Well, I would say anybody can do it. You can do it. I can do it. It's all just practice. So I'm sure, Joe, you've got some hobbies that you just love. It's just a passion, and you become really good at it because you spend a lot of time at it. So
Yeah.
that's it. It's really nothing special. I have no special powers. I never tell anybody anything like that. It's you learn it, and then over time you get more and more difficult stuff, and then you just keep adding to it. So at this point, for me, because I've been doing it for so long, it's easy, but it's not. It's actually really just because I spent a whole ton of time doing it. And then I would say the hardest part really is getting in front of the audience
Yeah.
being willing to go in front of people and do it and being okay with being embarrassed. I do this mentalism stuff today, and I think out of every, 10 acts or so, I'll make like one mistake or something like that. And it's not exactly what I expected, but that's okay. It's all right. But I think some people are just so afraid of making a mistake. But the thing is like, and this is what's great about entertainment. If your character is likable on stage, like you're not making fun of people, it's very professional or fun or however you want to do it, but people are having fun, they give you a lot of grace. You make a mistake, people are like, oh, they'll still even clap for you
Yeah.
sometimes, which is
Yeah.
great, and it's fine. You just move on. You're like, oh, well, that didn't work the way I
Yeah.
expected. That's all right. Let's do it. Let's do the next one, folks.
And you just keep going. Yeah.
You just keep going. That's
Who,
it.
who's been your hero? Who's been your inspirational force?
Oh, well, I would say for Magic it would be those folks that I talked about earlier. But otherwise, I would just say my family just really always been very supportive of me doing Magic. My brother in particular loves watching Magic. So he doesn't perform himself, but he always asks, "Hey, what do you got? What do you got new?" Things like that, and gives me the opportunity to practice. And so it's just a lot of fun. So I would say it's just really just support. In the end, this is yes, it does help you make a living, but it's also just a ton of fun.
So let me, if you could go back in history and see a Houdini or a Blaine or some magnanimous thing when Copperfield like did massive things, who would be somebody you would love to see in their prime doing their thing?
Oh, I think you already named the biggest name there is in Magic, which would be David Copperfield. So I would say between him and Penn and Teller, because they took different paths, and they still ended up kind of in the same place, right? Doing Magic for big shows and all that. But seeing how they navigated the landscape when they were younger, the things that they did at the time to adapt to the situation. I really don't know very much about them when they were younger, right?
Yeah.
We all know what they do today, and I think that would be super fascinating because you have to make a lot of trade-offs, very frankly, in order to be doing this type of work. Just as a simple example, right? Like most people will hire folks. So my shows are almost always. At the end of the workday, like 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock ish. Sometimes it's a little later. Sometimes it's like around lunchtime, but like I'm not like your 8 a.m. guy. Like, so it's normally like yeah, it's normally at particular times of the day, and um, depending upon your persona, oftentimes it's going to be on a weekend. So for my particular ones, I guess mine are very specific for conferences and things like that. So that's why mine are always Monday through Thursday in general, and then around the end of the conference, so around 5 o'clock. So that's why mine is the way that it is. But most others are because most don't do conferences as keynotes. Most do like parties and things like that, and those are always like after 7, right? So you have to actually completely change your personal schedule to align to that sort of thing. So your evenings and weekends in particular are just not great because you from a personal perspective, from a personal life perspective, because you have to align to that. So there's just and then sometimes. Especially if you're doing like these bigger shows, and then you've got people who buy these VIP tickets, you're expected to meet with them afterwards. And then a lot of times they may want to go out drinking or do whatever it is. And you've got to meet people, and it's all after the show. So if you buy tickets going to Ticketmaster or something, sometimes there's like a 10 o'clock show. Well, it goes on for an hour or two, and then now you're going out with them. And so it's like until 2 a.m. or something like that. So your whole life is very different. And by the way, you can't call in sick.
Yeah.
So if you've got a headache or you're not feeling well, unless you're at the hospital, um, you're going on. So you're going to have to take medicine or do whatever and pretend like you're feeling fine. So you'll see, for example, David Copperfield have the sniffles while on stage because he's got no choice. He's got to be doing it. So it's a really, really rough life.
Yeah.
Um, and that's part of the reason why I don't necessarily want to be doing that. Because you'd be disappointing way too many people, periodically every year. Statistically, that's what would happen. Um, so anyway, I'd love to see David Copperfield and Penn and Teller as they were making their journey to where they are today, the decisions, the thinking process that they had for why they do what it is they want to do. I think that would be super fascinating because I'm always interested in how people think.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. What is the motivator for you every day to continue to do this work at a high level and to also take care of your soul? What's that collective energy for you?
Oh, it's just fun. So hopefully you can tell just from me talking about it. I just love this stuff. Like there are two things that I enjoy besides, family and friends and like all the personal stuff. But from a work perspective, there are two things I love. One is the challenge of mysteries, which is why security is so awesome. And then the other is it's just the entertainment, the energy, the creativity. Whenever I do these conferences, events, like I ask them what their theme is. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, what is your theme for the event? What are you trying? What's the message you're trying to send? And then I take that and I combine it with mentalism and security, and I create this sort of Frankenstein that comes out, I think, really, really fun and awesome. But that allows me to use my creativity to come up with these new routines and to get people to think in different ways. And that's, the fun part. And then you've got this sort of intellectual part, which is your creativity. And of course, you perform it, and then you see whether or not it works.
Yeah. So was there a specific show that you've done that was just you just blew the crowd away? There was great energy. It was seminal in your development of what you're doing. Did you have a show like that?
Well, I think that each of my shows, they teach me something different. So I'll give you a sort of a couple of examples. One of them was I got two standing ovations in the same show, which was really cool. And that was after I had learned the cadence of things. So even within the past, I would say 4 years or so that I've been sort of doing these bigger shows. So my shows are usually at least a couple hundred people, if not like 1,000 or more, in the audience. And so what you got to learn, or what I learned, I should say, is that there's a sort of cadence that you have to follow in order to capture people's attention and then keep it, right? So initially, when I was doing this, when it was not so much of a stage show, but more of maybe on the extreme end, if you do it at a birthday party, right? Like you just sort of do a series of tricks or something like that. But when you're doing a show, it's like a movie. You've got to have a plot line. The first thing that I learned is that I need to capture their attention in 30 seconds at the very beginning. Otherwise, like they're completely lost. If I go through this 10-minute routine, nobody's got time for me. They don't care. Like they don't know where it's going. They don't care. So, understanding that flow where you do this sort of 30-second thing and then you move on to the next thing, it can be a little bit longer. Once you're 20 minutes in, you can do like a much longer routine because now you've built trust, 10 or 15 minutes. And then you can go up and down. You can't just only go up. You can go up and down, both in terms of energy as well as difficulty level, because you've got to give people that in order that up and down for them to feel like, oh, this is harder than the last one. If you just do hard stuff, they also, they won't appreciate it. Plus, you want people to kind of figure out some of the stuff. So you want to do some easy stuff as well, because then they feel smart, right? And so there's all of this psychology that goes into building the show. And also, what I've done at this point is I have sort of like in my mind, it's like this map. I actually don't know what I'm going to do for the show. So I prepare like 30 different routines. And then I open it with one that one is set. But then based on the audience reaction, and people are different. There are different reactions for different times of the day, and I can go into all sorts of detail into how they're different. And then the types of people and stuff like that. But you get the reaction, and then like, oh, is this working or not? And then the next one, I've got two or three that I can pick from that fit the criteria of length and the type of thing and the theme and all that. And then I go to the next one. And then I'm always picking what I think is going to be the best one for the given situation. And then also whether or not I got the prior one right or not. Because if I got it wrong, then I want to move to something that is easier for me to do so that I can build my own confidence back up. And also, and then so there's a whole bunch of variables that go into building the show. So now that I've been able to do that, so I have like 30 things and I'll do maybe eight during a show. Um, and then I can see that, wow, people really, really like it. So I think when I got the two standing ovations, I thought, okay, I figured this out now.
Yeah.
And then I can continue to build and continue to operate that way.
So if you were to have a dream tonight, you ran into a young 18-year-old version of you, and you showed that version of you this life that you have, how far you've come. Would that young version of you believe it?
I don't know. I think he'd probably be the same as my mother is. Like, you do what? So I told my mother always knew that I sort of do magic, and after COVID, so I guess 4 years ago or so, I did my first sort of bigger show was in Denver, and she said, "Hey, are you gonna come? When are you gonna come visit me? Are you coming next week?" And I said, "No, next week I'm gonna go to Denver for my magic show." And she's like, "Well, you really love magic so much. You're going to fly to Denver to go watch. You should come visit me." I said, "No, no, no, Mom. It's my magic show. Like, I'll be on stage, right?" And she said, "Yeah, yeah, whatever." So then I go and I sent her a picture. After someone in the audience took a picture of me and a volunteer who joined me on stage. So in a magic show, as you know, but just letting your audience know, like you will ask volunteers to come on stage and then you perform some magic, like sawing someone in half or whatever. And so anyway, someone in the audience sent me a photo of me on stage with a volunteer. So I sent that photo to my mother, to which she promptly replied, "You must be so thrilled that they asked you to go on stage to that you were called as a volunteer to be on stage."
That's wild.
Yeah. And then I took the show poster, which is a huge poster. I just took it from the show and I brought it home. And she's like, "That's odd. Why would they print a photo of you for their show?" So, so no, my younger self, and even my mother, did not really believe that. So
That's wild. So, of everything that you've accomplished and evolved to at this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
I would say figuring out how to make magic uh, beyond entertainment and to teach people interesting and useful concepts. Because I think that that's not something that's very common. I think there are a lot of people who can teach concepts, and I think there are a lot of people who can do magic or mentalism, but I don't think there's a lot of people who turn education into entertainment. And that's something that I'm pretty proud of, and it's a lot of fun.
So, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you family, friends, all of your fans, everyone that knows you, that works with you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
My perception of me is that I'm a nerd. In the end, I just enjoy learning things, and my doing this, I do enjoy. Don't get me wrong, but it helps facilitate for me learning completely new things all the time. So new topics, whatever that conference is. I'll go to a conference and I know nothing about finance, right? And I've been to several, they really like, the cybersecurity plus the education and entertainment and stuff like that. But like, I know nothing about banking, but I learned so much, from those, right? And that's just a lot of fun to me is the learning, and so this helps facilitate for that. So I would say it's I'm a nerd, and this helps me facilitate for the money and the opportunity to go to events to learn.
So, speaking of events, if anybody wants to catch you live, they want to book you, any of the good business, where's the best place to go?
They can just search for me on Google, Gary Chan, Security Mentalist. I'm the only one on there. You'll find my website. It's gschan2000.com. This was my personal website from when I was a kid, and I never intended for this to be a business, so that's why it is that. But at this point, people all know it, so I never changed it. But
Yeah,
they can find me easily on with a Google search. So
right on.
yeah.
Gary, this has been great. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Joe. It's been a pleasure.
Yes.